Hello friends and welcome here. Today we're doing something a little bit different, a little bit exciting if you ask me. I think it's exciting. Today we're going to do the first of a series of episodes on converting a hand knit pattern into a machine knit pattern. So recently I splurged and treated myself to an LK150 knitting machine. It is a plastic bed machine. I got it secondhand from eBay. And it is actually one of the few knitting machines that are still currently being made in the world. And it is by the brand Silver Reed, and Silver Reed is pretty much the only manufacturer still making knitting machines these days. So I picked one of those up, and the reason that I did is because it does heavier weight yarn. So the PASAP that you would have seen, I think, my Brother machines that you definitely saw when I cleaned them, or not Brother, they were Empasol, but they were rebadged Brother machines. Those are all standard gauge machines. The PASAP's a little bit finer than the Empasol. The Empasol is 4.5 millimeters between the needles. The PASAP is slightly smaller than that, and the LK150 has 6.5 millimeters between the needles. So therefore, I think DK is its kind of happy spot, like an 8 ply. But it can. Some people have had success all the way up to chunky. So I think you can do sort of sport through chunky. You can do fingering on it, but it is quite a loose fabric. It is really suited for DK weight. The pattern that I've chosen to do as my first kind of experiment from a hand knit pattern to a machine knit pattern is The Weekender by Andrea Mowry. So I chose this pattern because it is more of a boxy shape. There's not a ton of shaping, even though that probably would be fine. I could probably work that out. But like the rate of decreases does change if your gauge changes. So for me, I thought if I just stick to something that is fairly boxy, fairly up and down, I might have greater success at my first attempt at doing this sort of thing. I am using some Knit Picks Wool of the Andes worsted, so I have quite a bit of that in my stash. It's one of my favourite sweater knitting yarns, and I'm using the colourway Dove Heather. Another interesting thing with this pattern is it does have short rows on it, so the shoulders get short rowed, which is something that's relatively easy on the machine, I would say. It does have a lot of ribbing though, so that's going to be interesting because the LK150 does not come with a ribber. It does not have a ribber in any, not just that I don't have one, it just does not have one. So to perform ribbing, either you need to knit it by hand and attach it to the machine, or you would knit how many rows that you needed of ribbing, and then you would drop the stitches down and re-latch them back up, and that's what I'm going to be doing. So a couple of weeks ago, when I was still sick actually, so if I look a bit peaky in this footage, that is why. I was sick with COVID for nearly 6 weeks. So that is why I have been missing from here for a while, because I've been trying to get my life back in order after being out of action for over a month. So if I look a bit rough in the footage that you're about to see, that is why, because I was still getting over COVID. But what I did in this video is create my swatch. Now, I think I have heard it said that swatching for machine knitting is like imperative. Like sometimes with hand knitting, because you get to know what your gauge is, you know whether you're a loose or a tight knitter, you can kind of often fudge it. Like I personally don't do gauge swatches most of the time for the stuff that I knit, potentially only if I'm using a very special yarn that I don't want to stuff up the final project. So I decided that I better get a gauge swatch done, and there is a specific way that you do this. It is in the manual for the machine, and it's actually very different to what as hand knitters we would kind of be familiar with for making a gauge swatch. The LK150 comes with these little ruler type things. They're not rulers, they're scales, but ruler is a nice shorthand for what you would call these. Basically it has two sides, so one for rows, and we'll flip it, and one for stitches, and you will use this on your swatch to get your gauge. So I have here my swatch, and this is just some waste yarn. This purple is just some waste yarn. That is my, what's the word? my tension. So this is what my dial was set to. I was set to 7 on my dial to knit this worsted weight yarn. So this is the Dove Heather that I mentioned, and this is my little swatch. Hi everybody, we're up in my second bedroom today. But yeah, I'm doing some swatching today on my knitting machines. I've got one here that you guys have not seen, and it is an LK 150, so it's a silver reed brand. You'll see some swatching a little bit later. I've actually just completed it, so you can actually see it in the background. I might give you a quick tour of it just for now. We'll obviously be seeing a lot more of this on the channel. This plastic one is a mid gauge. You can get chunky machines, but chunky's a little bit heavy for what I work with. I tend to work with worsted at the maximum. This will do chunky as well. You work on every other needle, but I don't know if I'm ever going to use that. I basically wanted this to knit my sport through worsted weight yarns, so 5, 8 and 10 ply yarns. So as I was saying, this is the carriage for the LK 150. It is a plastic bed, so this is all plastic. I probably need to give it a bit of a dust. It does look a little bit grubby in there. The needles have these little plastic tips on them, so the needles are quite a bit more chunky than on my other machines. And yeah, so we've got the yarn master here. I'm really wedged into my bedroom here, so don't mind all these really super close-up shots. It's because I haven't got space to spread out. Came with weights, came with clamps to hold it down, row counter. So I basically also, as an explanation, got this because I tried that sweater machine that I showed you guys, and it was utter crap. I couldn't get it to work, so yeah, I treated myself to this, and it has knit me a swatch so far, and a hat I have done on here. This is my cast on comb. So yeah, this is my new machine. I'm sure we'll be seeing plenty of it on the channel, but I thought I'd just give you a quick introduction for now. Okay, I have my swatch here. It is all ready to go, as you have already seen, and these little guys here are very important, so I'm going to be using my gauge ruler. So this one is specific to my knitting machine, to the LK 150, and basically what we need to do is from this end where the arrow is on both ends, we have to pop it onto our swatch. Let's uncurl that a little bit, and then basically between these two stitches this will tell me how many stitches I have. So I have 18 stitches in 10 centimeters. So it's not what my actual swatch is, it's what is in 10 centimeters is what this scale will tell me. And then we're going to flip it, and we're going to turn it this way and pop it on our knitting again. Okay, so we pretty much want it where the waste yarn hits our actual project yarn. I think it's a bit bit glary there for you. I'm sorry about that. That's my overhead light. And then we want to go down to the waste yarn on the other end, and I hope you can see there, but it says 25. So therefore we know that our gauge that I have achieved with my actual project yarn is 18 stitches by 25 rows in 10 centimeters. So not in the swatch that I have here, not in the size that my swatch came out, but in 10 centimeters. So that's what that scale ruler will do for me. Now I just have to plug in what I've just found out into my spreadsheet, and then I can work out my actual pattern that I need to knit on my LK150 to make the weekender. Okay, we're here on the couch. We have Elvis next to us. He's sitting here with his quilt, trying to keep warm because it's a bit cold at the moment. So he is here. He's never very far from me. So we're going to go through this pattern. I have it open on my screen, and I'm going to show you guys what it is that I have done. This is a paid for pattern, so I don't want to go too in depth with what I've got here, because anybody who's wants to take the time can probably figure out the pattern from what I have here on my screen, and I don't want to get in trouble with Andrea Mowry. So basically I have here, as you can see, I have my pattern gauge, which is what Andrea's pattern is knit in, my LK150 gauge, as we have just seen. It's 18 stitches by 25 rows. So I'm pretty close actually to what the pattern asks for. So my stitches I don't need to adjust at all. My rows I obviously need to have a slight adjustment because my stitches are a little bit bigger than what is asked for in the pattern. So basically, according to the pattern, I have my cast on stitches, and because the pattern has a slip stitch detail down the front, I need to have an odd number of stitches, which is fine. And then I've got here that I need to knit a certain number of rows, and then I do relatch as ribbing. So it starts with ribbing. And because I have a note here to take knitting off machine and on waste yarn and rehang, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to reform my ribbing. I'm going to take it off the machine on waste yarn, turn it around and put it back on the machine, because I believe the way the pattern is written, it will make sure that the center stitch, that is the slip stitch up the front, will start on a knit ribbed column. So the column in your ribbing will be knitted stitches that will go into the slip stitches. All these numbers here that I have worked out basically mean that I can get the length, because obviously my rows, I have less rows than what the pattern is asking for. I'm not going to click on any of these because these are actually formulas. So if I click on the formula, you would see what the length is that I am looking for, which you could pinch the pattern, which I'm not about. So basically it's a split hem. So I do my bottom hem, do my back panel, and then there's a bunch of shoulder shaping, as you can see here. So I've actually written it all out for myself, so I can follow these instructions and I don't miss any of the short rows. And then onto shoulder ribbing. Then I have to do basically the whole thing again, but the bottom hem is, the bottom front hem is slightly more shallow than the back bottom hem. So then I'm going to put everything back on the machine, as is my plan, and then knit a row and whatever. I'll see. Like, this stuff is kind of theoretical at this point. I will eventually, when I'm actually doing it, I may or may not do it the same way that I have written here, because I might find that it's easier to do it another way, or it doesn't work out exactly like I'm expecting. So all of this stuff that I have here is very much sort of a suck it and see type thing, because theoretically it all looks good. It may not actually work when I get to the machine. So that is the body. Then I have another page for my sleeves, and I'm hoping to reattach the sweater to the machine and knit my sleeves down from the body of my my sweater. So that's pretty much what I'm intending to do with the knitting of the sweater. So we'll do the back, we'll do the front, we'll join them together at the shoulders. I have a note in there to add markers to where the underarms start, and then basically the front and the back to that marker I will attach back onto the machine, knit down my sleeves, and then at the end, all technically I should need to do is to seam up the sides and down under the arms, and then I should have a completed sweater. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to get to the machine and actually see how all of that kind of works out. Okay, so that is pretty much it for today. I will be moving on to the actual knitting of the garment in the next episode. I'll be starting to knit my pieces. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this was interesting or educational in some way. I don't know how many of you are actually interested in the conversion of hand knit to machine knit patterns. If you did want something a little bit more in depth and involved, then potentially I can do that for you. The issue that I had today is I didn't want to show you too much of my converted pattern because it is a paid for pattern. I don't want anybody to, see what I have written out and extrapolate backwards and basically steal the pattern. So it was very brief showing you guys my spreadsheet. If people are interested in the conversion, how I did my conversion, how I worked it all out, I can probably find a free pattern over on Ravelry, do the conversions, show you exactly what I'm doing. I'll go through the whole thing with you guys if that is of interest. If it is, please do let me know down in the comments section because I'm happy to do that if that is something that you are interested in watching. Please like the video. Please like the video. My audience is increasing lately. Thank you guys. I'm so glad to see so many new subscribers and I'd really love that to keep going. So giving me a like on this video is a huge benefit to me. Please subscribe if you watch regularly but you are not, and if you would like to give me a little bit of a tip, I have a link down in the description for the Buy Me a Coffee website. If you wanted to just chuck me a few dollars over there, that would be very much appreciated. You can find me on Instagram. I am on there on multiple accounts depending what you're interested in. My own hand-dyed yarns, which I'm repping today, is Lovebird Lane, at Lovebird Lane. See here on the screen. And I am also on there under Lovebird Lane _makes. If you're interested in seeing Elvis, he's on there as You Ain't Nothing But an Elvis Dog. Yeah, I hope you're excited to see how this sweater comes out. We will start knitting in the next episode, and yeah, I'm really excited about it. I've been putting this off because I've wanted to film this for you guys, so now I'm excited to finally be getting going on it. So I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you're all having a fantastic week and you're all very well. And I will catch you in the next episode. So take care of yourselves. Happy knitting. Bye. What are you doing? That's my seat. I need to sit with Daddy. Come here, that's my seat. You said